Hi everyone, welcome to the Coding Bootcamp 2023 edition. In this session, we'll introduce the newly released InterBase Driver for Python. So before starting off with the session, we shall introduce ourselves first. My brother Lucas and I both will be presenting this session together. Hey bro, introduce yourself.
Hey, bro. Yeah, actually,
Hey.
first, thanks for having me here today. And I'm Lucas, one of the developers of the Embarcadero's Python X system.
I'm Priyatham and I'm Python developer and one of the developers of the Python Delphi ecosystem. I'm majorly part of the other Python bindings which we shall go through in a bit. So okay, let's go to the InterBase driver for Python. This project majorly lives on GitHub and the link is mentioned here. We shall see what InterBase is first. So InterBase is it has a full features, all the features that anyone desires from a database, along with the edge of high performance and its ultra fast nature. So it's also encryptable, and it's encryptable to the core, if you see, where you can even have field level encryptions, which is helpful for you in login authentication procedures. So it's highly scalable, where you can build for embedded devices, mobile, desktop to servers, all the stack, all the kind of computing machines. So it's scalable to all the levels. It's relational and multi-platform SQL database, unlike the recent NoSQL databases, which are not relational. So, and InterBase has its roots right from 1980s, if you see. So it also comes with the commercial grade data security and the disaster recovery and change synchronization, which makes it a reliable option, if you see. So it's a great option for developers who are looking, to embed a low cost and secure database into your cross-platform application development. So it is also ANSI SQL, ACID compliant, and has a whole lot of extensive features. So InterBase now comes to the Python. So with this InterBase driver for Python, you can get all of that above features which InterBase has at the comfort of being a Python developer. So we are offering this as a Python package, so you can use InterBase as a backend to your Python applications. Full stack development with Python took off high tides recently with the famous REST API development packages like FastAPI, Flask, and Django REST framework. So you can use InterBase database within your Flask or Django backend based full stack applications as a database. Okay, right? API docs for this InterBase driver for Python are currently live and are available over here in this link. Hey bro, let's show this docs for them once.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is the documentation. It's released very lately, and now you can take advantage of this Python package, and you can see all the user guide of all of the API of that InterBase driver. And
yes, this database event is a very good feature that they have introduced in the InterBase itself,
Yeah, exactly.
Database events. Yeah, this is very powerful.
Yeah, this is the one. Database events. Nice. Yeah. And now let's take a look after Delphi Vcl for Python, which we which we shall use to create some desktop GUI application to look how InterBase Driver of Python can be used as part of the Python applications. So it goes well hand in hand better with other Python packages. So Delphi Vcl for Python is also one of the Python packages that is a Python binding that we are offering as a wrapper for the VCL framework of Delphi. So it goes as much hand in hand with other Python packages similar with this Delphi VCL too. So first of all, let's take a look after what Delphi VCL so that you can see what's going on later in the demo. So Delphi VCL is used for creating GUI applications for Windows platform only. So it provides huge set of this GUI components from this VCL framework of Delphi and make it available to the Python as a wrapper. And each VCL component will be first of all wrapped in Delphi and then provided to the Python packages. So most of the components are wrapped and ready to be used. Like more of them are counting to be coming as the community requests and as we see the demand, as we see the requirement. So like if you want to choose a cross-platform application development, then you need to go ahead with the Delphi FMX package, which is where Delphi VCL is for Windows only. So each component like provides a extensive set of data attributes where and methods where you can have a specific behavior for that component as per the need of the situation. You can change their state and behavior. So their API documentation is also available, which you can take advantage of and create the GUI applications as per your requirement. This is one of the things which we want to share. And then there is something called as Delphi for Python Exporter. So this is one of the crucial offerings for this Python Delphi ecosystem that we are offering to export your Delphi designs to the Python projects. Yeah, D4P Exporter is a tool to export GUI applications design, as I said. You can get this D4P Exporter from the Get package manager, which is similar to the pip for Python package manager for the Python developers, and you can install it from there. Where after that you can make use of this Delphi's flagship UI design capabilities in order to save time in like writing code of design code where you need to write that layouts or widgets, all that stuff. You can just drag and drop this in using this WYSIWYG GUI designer, and you can use that preview capabilities, including the styles and previewing them before going ahead and exporting it. So this stuff is something which you can take advantage of that, and you can use this feature of linking event methods to various events like on-click event and on-change event, and there are such events at this design time, so that you don't need to write that event methods schema kind of code in the Python application. You can just take this structure, export it, and you can start writing the business logic that you want to implement. So using this way, you can using this approach, you can scale your large-scale Python GUI applications. So for Delphi developers, you can take your Delphi skills and offer a Python implementation of your application to have a larger audience reach of your application. So that, and also if you want to provide an open source applications using this Python GUI packages, you can make use of this exporter and do that. So we have a plan of providing this D4P exporter along with WYSIWYG GUI designer as part of the Python FMX builder in the near future. So we shall come back and do a session and webinar as soon as that's ready. So let's watch a demo with all this Delphi VCL for Python as a Python package and exporter to export the application that is designed, and then after that, in that exported Python application, we shall use this InterBase driver for Python, and we can create a demo out of that. Hey, bro. Right? So let's go ahead and watch a demo where Lucas will be demonstrating this thing for you guys.
Let's first talk about the InterBase SQL Script. So basically it consists of creating an embedded database, the code in Bootcamp 2023. Then we create a table here, it's called employee, and it has many columns here. We have a generator. This will create a new primary key for each new record that we insert to this table. I'm inserting many records here, creating an index. This is cool because it can let us to search for the last name and the first name combined in columns, right? I have a procedure here. This is a search amp. This is will look for a record by searching using the input string here, and it will result in the amp numbers that it finds out, right? And basically this is all we have for the SQL script. After that, we need this batch script here to create the database itself. It will create the database file, right? So for this, we need the iSQL app available here. And make sure that you have installed the InterBase before trying to run this code. We have this argument with -i. This is the input file. So we only need to pass that input file that we have just created. And let me run this code. So code cd files. Oh, cd ib cd files, right? Yes. So now let's run the create.db bat file. Fine. So it outputted this IB file here. This is the database itself. Okay. So once we have the database created, then we can call to the RAD Studio and design our application. So once in the RAD Studios, I have this sample project here, right? Forms. This is the list view form. Here we have a grid that will display all the records in that database, right? We have a search input box here. We can type strings here and try to search it on the database. We have some actions buttons here. We can add new records, edit selected record, or delete it as well. Then we have this entity view. This entity view will display a record and actually giving us the capability of editing or adding new records by filling out this edits here, right? So once we have this done, we only need to use the exporter. I can actually export my entire current project. This is the option that I will use. I only need to select a folder here where it will actually place all the result files it will be Python modules, right? I'm not going to generate these as I have previously generated these files for this test, but then you only need to click in the export button and a confirm dialog will appear here. So showing the code here, actually we don't have any code in these forms, right? This is only the designing of the forms itself. Everything will be actually typed in the Python file itself, right? I have only added these events because then it will automatically export it to the Python files itself and create all these methods. So now we can go back to the Python part of this sample, right? And let's first talk about the connection itself, because we need to interact with the InterBase database, this IB file here, right? So for that, we need first create a connection with InterBase. And we are using the InterBase Python driver for this intentional. So I will need to create a connection here. You can find everything that you need in the InterBase Python InterBase driver available in the GitHub web page from Embarcadero. But basically, we have this connection with where we need to inform all the settings to connect to this given IB file, right? This is the database. I have the constants here where I have everything set accordingly. I have the DB name, that file name. I have the username. This is by default the CGBA, and the IB password by default is to master key, right? Here I have a path for my file, my database file, and I can set the dialect of my SQL scripts, right? So here I'm using the dialect tree. Once we have this connection ready, okay, one thing important here is that I'm sharing the same connection between all my modules, right? I don't need different connections in any other module here, right? I can share the same connection in my modules. So the first one I'm going to show you is the Python VCL InterBase. This is the application itself. This is where the Delphi VCL app is created, right? All these three Py files, including the PyDFM ones, were actually exported from this app here that we have just used, the export to Python app, right? So it generated all these files here. I only added it to my Python project. This is, as I was saying, the main one. This is the module that creates the Delphi VCL app. And then we first display the list view form itself, right? So let's see what the list view is actually doing here. The list view, this is all the code we have for the list view. Let me try to explain very quickly for you. Okay, so the first thing here, we create that components that we have in the form itself, right? Because here in the form we have all these components here. They are all available here. So we need to make reference to them to be actually assigned when loading these props. These load props will use this pydfm file. As you can see here, this has all the configurations for my form, right? So designing it here directly in the RAD Studio will output all the settings here without the needing of writing code, only to create my GUI itself, right? I only have the basics here. So after I load these props, using the Delphi form file, I'm getting a reference to that connection, the InterBase connection, right? So here I have a reference to the InterBase connection, and I can use this cone variable to interact with the database itself. Then I have the grid config. This is only to create the columns of my grid, where I will list all the records that I have in that database. Right here, I set the column widths. I fill the grid, so I can type some logics here to fill the grid itself. It actually gives me a list of rows with tuples that will represent a record in the database, right? So I can format everything as I wish here. I have the list all method. The list all method will perform a select in my database, a select in the employee table from my database, right? So I can execute this select using a cursor from the connection, the InterBase connection. Okay. Once I have executed these instructions, this SQL instruction here, I can fetch all the records from the cursor, and then it will result in a list with tuples. Then I call that grid fill method that will actually fill out my grid. I have the list search. This will actually be used for that input search edit, right? So you can type something that you want to search for here, and it will use that procedure that we have defined in the SQL script, right? The search procedure. Then once we have retrieved the employees primary keys, we can actually search for all them by selecting them from the table itself, right? Then I can fill in the same manner. I can fill the grid, but only with that record that matches to my input. Okay. I have the form show. This is a Delphi form event. In this form show, I'm filling up the grid by selecting everything that I have in that table. This is a search, the search click, the btn search click. This is that button that will perform the search itself, right? If I have something as an input in that search edit, it will use it to try to search for records in my database. But if it is actually empty, it will list everything. The btn delete click, this will, if we have a selected row, right, it will delete that record by executing a delete instruction in the database. Then after executing a delete in the database, I need to commit to persist my change, right? So I have the btn edit click. The btn edit click, if I have a selected row, it will open the entity view form and load all the record fields in my form. The same thing for the btn add click, but it will actually prepare an empty entity view and let you put anything you want to create a new record. Okay, so then the entity view. The entity view is this second form here, right? So here I will actually select a record in the database, and then I can modify it here, or then I can create a new record by inputting instructions here in this form, right? So the same thing here, I have defined my components here. Actually, this is all generated automatically by the exporter, right? So I don't need to type these instructions here. And the same thing for the form file. I only need to load the props. It will read everything from this form file here. And then I retrieve a connection reference, the InterBase connection reference here to be used in this entity view form. And following the methods here, we have the btn cancel click. The btn cancel click is an event for the btn cancel button that will discharge all the chains and then close my form, right? And I have the btn save click. The btn save click, it will validate my form first to check if every information that the user has inputted to my form is valid and I can persist this in the database. But then I have two options here: to edit an existing record, or by creating a new one, right? So I need to first know if I'm currently editing or inserting a new record. Okay, and giving this option, I will call the desired method here, and after that I need to commit all my chains, right? So the do edit is this option here when I'm editing an existing record. What we do here is actually we get a reference to the cursor by using the InterBase connection, and then we execute this update instruction in the InterBase database, actually in that employee table, right? And we will update all these columns, all that columns that we have in that available in that table, with the information that the users have typed here, right? So then we update that record by executing that instructions. So we make a variable with the string that this is the script, the SQL script, right? This is a string with the instructions that we need to run in the database. And here we have the params. This params is all the contents that we have in that components in that edits, right? So after that, I execute this command by giving these params here. So this is a combination, right? I can pass the instruction itself and the params that will represent all these question marks here. Okay. So then we have the insert method. This insert method is the other option that we have here. This is for when we need to persist a new record to the database itself, right? But the same thing here. The difference that here we update an existing record, and here we insert a new record in the database. Okay, but the same thing. We have this SQL script. We have the params, and something important here is that I want to retrieve the generated primary key for that record in the database, right? So we have that generator, the amp no chain. This is a generator that will automatically generate a new primary key number for my new record. And after that, I can actually retrieve this new number by selecting this chain ID by giving my generator itself, right? So I execute this command and I run a fetch and see if I have actually in fact a new primary key available here. And if I have so, I run this edit to it will refresh, basically refresh my form, right? But now with new uh, my new information that was actually created in the database itself. So the fill form, it will only get the record, that record columns from my table and fill up my form with that information. The validate form, this is where we actually check for valid input data. The add itself and the edit itself, this is the two methods that we have exported outside this module and that will be used in the list view module itself, right? The add one is to actually create, it will fill the form, prepare the form for a new entry. And the edit itself is actually for editing an existing record. It will try to retrieve it from the database and fill the form with all the available information. Okay, so this is it. Let's run this code now. Right, and I only need to run my module, right? I'm using Python -m to run my module. This is my main module, right? This is where my VCL application is actually created and my main form is shown. So let's type this. Okay, and then my form actually was shown by displaying all the records that I have in the database itself, right? So this is all the records that I have previously inserted in my database in that script. So as we can see here, we have all these entries being inserted here. And then I have my form showing everything, right? So let's try something here. Let me add a new record. Let's call it Lucas Belo. The full name, I can type it here, right? This is a read-only input field, but I can select the hire date. I can give me a good salary, maybe my whole developer. And once I save this record, this form will refresh and fill in the ID that was generated in the database itself by that by this generator here, right? And the full name itself will be actually created too, because the full name, I think I didn't show this before, but the full name is a computed column, right? It combines the last name and the first name with a comma. So let me save this, and then we see that we have a new ID, and this is now persisted in the database itself, and I have my full name available here too, right? So I can close this form, the entity view form, and it will automatically refresh my list view form. So my new record is now available here. But if I need to edit this record, I can click in that edit button and give me an even better salary here and save this change by pressing save. So this is now persisted in the database, right? And if I close that form again, this record here gets updated as well. I can try to edit something here, but then I realized that I just inputted, a lower salary, so I don't want to do this. And then I can cancel this change. And by canceling it will discard my chains and close the entity form. And I can search for the hack word here. I can type my name here and click in this button, and it will search for my hack word, right? And if I let it empty and click in that button again, it will list all the records. So this is the showcase that I have for you guys. One last thing, let me show you this GitHub web page here. This is the InterBase for Python driver. Okay, so check it out if you want. If you need more details in how to install the InterBase itself or how to install the InterBase driver for Python itself, you can check it out here. Okay, so this is it. Thank you.
That's a nice and sweet sample, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually only a minimalist usage sample of InterBase, but you can take advantage of InterBase database.
Thank you. We'll see.
Oh, those two crack me up every single time. I just like, I work with them quite a lot on all sorts of things, and they always talk to each other in the chat. Hey, bro. Hey, bro. It's quite endearing, and they always say, "Hey, Ian." Now it's time for the questions as well. And the two presenters that were on that are Priyatham and Lucas, and they're both here live now in the studio with me, or actually virtually in the studio. Hi, Priyatham, and hi, Lucas. How are you? Well, I think we're going to make you appear. There you go. We're in a little. Looks like we're on a quiz show, doesn't it? Looks like we're going to go for the $50,000 question or something. There we go. Yeah, it's hilarious. You two, I mean, love you. You're very enthusiastic, and I like the kind of camaraderie that goes on between you as well. You work very well together. As I said, I do other projects with you, and I know how closely you integrate. Great session. A couple of people were asking what it was and a few things like that. I did put tickers down along the bottom of the screen, and I'll just make a few more of them come up again. Let me. Here we go. This one. Yeah, there you go. So the stuff you were showing was actually for InterBase, which is a data. What we call it? Database technology, database system. It's a database like MySQL and SQL Server that is available from Embarcadero. And if you scan up here now, let's see if I can point correctly that way. I have to look at my badge.
Yeah.
If you scan your QR code there, you'll actually go directly to the InterBase page, which will explain more about it. And actually, we've got loads of time to talk, so I'll talk a little bit more about InterBase. There are some sessions coming up this week. One tomorrow, actually, one of the last ones by a colleague of mine, Stephen Ball, who he's a Brit as well. And he'll be talking about a developer's guide to getting started with InterBase. So interesting stuff. Now, you did show some Python code there. In fact, quite a lot of Python code. And one of the MVPs spotted and said, "Oh, he's using Visual Studio Code. Well, why isn't he using PyScripter?" Was that just a choice, or is there something that PyScripter didn't do, or what was it?
Yeah, actually, I had other files there, right? I had the IB file and other files that I would like to show to people. So then I decided to use the VS Code only because I could centralize everything from my left side, so maybe it could get easier to show everything to people.
I'm sure the marketing director will punish you severely. I'm just kidding. At the end of the day, the thing about the ecosystem here is that, obviously, this is sponsored by Embarcadero. That's why I'm wearing an Embarcadero shirt. But actually, we do embrace lots of other ecosystems. Embarcadero do not directly sponsor a Python variety or whatever you would call it. Python is an organization all of its own, and we acknowledge how useful it is. There are millions of people using Python. And the same with Visual Studio Code. We're not going to pretend it doesn't exist. That would be ridiculous. But there are PyScripter is out there, and it's a very capable system as well. And if they scan that QR code, there you go. I'll point to it again. All right, there you go. Everything's mirrored on my screen. But if they go to the scan and the InterBase thing, they'll see that there. Right, so let me just hide that so that we're not doing that. Okay, so you guys have worked on quite a few other things as well, which I don't think we really touched on. For example, some user interface things and stuff like that. Is that right? Like Delphi FMX and Delphi Vcl. Do you want to just briefly talk about those as well? Either one of you.
Yeah.
Go on, bro.
Delphi.
I mean, what is, if I didn't know, if I was a new user on the chat, what is Delphi FMX and what is Delphi VCL, and why would I care about it if I was a Python programmer, for example?
Exactly. The point is that the Delphi VCL is the Windows-only GUI application development Python package. But as if you come to the Delphi FMX, right, you can create, one single code, and you can create any, any platform. You can develop the application for any platform. So as part of that, the thing is there is something called as Python FMX Builder, which is specifically we are making it viable or feasible in a easy way for any people to develop Android and if possible iOS applications in future, so that it's kind of where, and also we are thinking to make that maybe in future the Python FMX Builder as one of the go-to options for creating any means all the cross-platform application through that, embedded all the tools inside that and all. But at present you can use any other editors or stuff and anything you can use and create the GUI applications using the Delphi FMX and Delphi VCL.
So I think to summarize what you're saying then, that Delphi FMX, which is the kind of bigger of the two libraries, allows you to actually take Python and produce Android apps with Python, which is actually a relative. I mean, there are a couple of other systems that allow you to do that, but not as comprehensively as Delphi FMX. Delphi FMX supports things like styles as well. So if you've watched any of the other sessions that we've got, and there's a couple coming up, I think, the styles are professionally designed graphical user interfaces, look and feels, or skins was the old way of referring to them.
And the most important thing is debugging.
Yes, debugging as well. So which is a pain in the neck if you're doing things with Python sometimes. But this is the key thing, that you can make an app look like it isn't a Python app. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive, but really, why are you writing a Python app? You're not writing it because you want it to look like it's a Python app. You're wanting to write an app because it's an app. That's really what it is about. And so if you want to create an app that is an app, then you want it to look as if it belongs on an Android device, or it belongs on Windows, or it belongs on Mac, or it belongs on Linux. And that's the whole point about the Delphi FMX, is it makes it look beautiful, and it does it for free. The skins that we're doing, or the styles that we're doing, are all free, and so is Delphi FMX, completely free. And FMX Builder is currently free. I think it is. That's right. It's free as well. So the keyword there is free. So free tools for Python all round. It's the best price, isn't it? Free. And Lucas, you worked on the InterBase Driver a little bit more as well. It's available on PyPy, that's right, isn't it? I think.
Yes. Yeah, actually, it's not available at PyPy, right? So you can download it directly, install it directly from the GitHub repository or PyPy as well. So I think it's easier to, it's easier to install from PyPy, right? You only need to pip install InterBase, and it's all done. So It turns everything much easier.
Yeah, and the name for that to install for people that need to is pip install and then lowercase InterBase, spelt the way we did it. In fact, I think I've got a ticker for it because I have a ticker for everything now. You know that. Let me just go and have a look. I have the control, and poor Martha doesn't have any of the control. Let me see. Oh, do you know what? I don't have a ticker for InterBase. Oh dear, that's a shame. Okay, well, I do have a QR code, so that's the next best thing. So if they go to this one, if they scan this code there, they will actually go to the InterBase page. But just go to the Embarcadero page. .com and then look for InterBase. It's under the products there, but it's a very interesting system. Like I say, we have got videos about it tomorrow from an expert, because Stephen Ball is the I think he works on product management for that as well. So got some very unique features that other databases don't have. There's an IB2Go version, which is kind of I get confused between the ones because someone changed my mind about something recently, but it's a bit like SQLite, except you have to pay extra for SQLite for the encryption, whereas the InterBase one includes the encryption in it, and you pay a subscription, I think, or something like that. But Stephen will explain that much better than I do. So there you go.
Basically, it's
basically
recently you can see that this web application development using Python took off, so much because of its ease of development using the Python, right? So the Flask and Django and other recent FastAPI frameworks, right? So now you can use this interface as one of the database of choices, right? As part of the Python application development, as a to access it from the backend. Like you can
and the other real big thing, I suppose, as well is, and this is for Delphi programmers as well, excuse me, is there is a library called Python for Delphi, and what that allows you to do is to run Python code inside your Delphi programs. So you can write a fully native Delphi program that can't, people can't open it up and edit it. It's an executable, just the same as everything else. You can code sign it, you can encrypt it, and all the rest of it. But you can run Python code. The benefit of that is you have all the speed and security of a Delphi app, but you have all the amazing amount of libraries available to you in the Python ecosystem. Python was released at the same time as Delphi. They're both as old as each other. They're both as mature as each other. But Python is obviously, it's a scripting language. It's a lot easier to get to grips with. But this year, in 2023, has become even more important because of AI. Because actually, the one thing that Python really, really does do well is AI, machine learning, and things like that. You've got so many examples that are already written in Python. If you go to ChatGPT, there's all the examples in Python. It's their primary language of explanation, shall we say. And you've got a lot of libraries like NumPy and a few others that do things that actually no other language does. And by having the Python for Delphi, then you can run those kind of libraries.
Yeah, actually, what you're saying, the point here is that what the choice of AI has in Python majorly not because it's Python, but because it has ease of having packages on top of it.
Right.
Python made what it made more what it made more good is not the language itself, but a support that it can have from the other languages. So that is why this AI and all stuff have been implemented on top of Python because of that large framework support. Extensive framework support.
Yeah. Interestingly, Martha, our producer, is saying she's not seeing our ticker. Well, I'm seeing it, so there you go. I don't know what's going on. Yes, I mean, this is like, I'm going to hide it now so it disappears. I think, you make the point there that it's the ease of consumption of libraries. I mean, you literally just mention it and off you go. You've got that library, and it is quite incredible. I'm a big fan of Python. I prefer Delphi. I would say that, even though I'm the developer advocate for it, but
and you can use Python as part of Delphi now, obviously.
exactly, and very easily, and actually thanks to you guys and thanks to a few others in the background as well. But what I would say to the people that are watching this live, when you're talking about developers, these guys are the real deal here. These are actually developers that do work on our internal projects and to do with Python and things like that. And they do things like Lucas and I in particular have spent an awful lot of time messing around with things like repositories and PyPy authentications and stuff like that. And he taught me a few things about it. I'm like, okay, I think I understand now, But if you are watching this and you want to know what developers look like, there's a bunch of three of us here who are all developers. And, Kyriakos is another guy who's involved in this quite heavily as well, and a couple of others as well. But and Eli also, who presents, is involved in the Python stuff as well. But developers take all shapes and sizes, all colors, creeds, religions, countries. All three of us are in separate countries, and I'm not even in my original country of birth either. And that's the great thing, that it's a great leveler. I always say this because this question comes up every now and again, where people say, "Oh, about religion and war and things like that." And I always say, we only have one religion, and that's the language that we use, in the programming language. That's what we fervently, religiously believe in is the right one. And our politics are over things like tabs and spaces. Are tabs better than spaces? Other than that, it's not relevant. If you're a developer, not all of us speak the same language, but I think we all speak the same language when it comes to development. And good code when you see it, bad code when you see it, and when someone has got a skill or talent, and you guys have both got talent in spades. You definitely, you know what you're doing. It's great to sort of be involved in that in a small way. I just do the talking. That's my involvement in these projects. I get to look good without having to do any real work. So there you go. You're supposed to say no, Ian. You do lots. They never call me bro. You know that? They never call me bro. Yeah, I'm joking. I'm more like dad now, actually. I've got to the age where nobody calls me bro. They all call me dad or something. What can I say? I remember being your age. It was a very long time ago. I had more hair then as well. Worn, yeah. Okay, so we've got not a massive amount of questions. Patrick has been answering lots of them as well. Patrick Priyatham.
Yeah, he's been doing a good job in answering.
He does it every time. Every time we stream, Patrick is on that. And Patrick actually streams live as well on Twitch. It's another guy I've got a lot of respect for. Streaming live coding is a special kind of scary, because you and I, we all do our coding and record it. And if you make a mistake or something goes wrong, you can go, stop the video, go and edit it, and so it looks smoother than it actually is. But being a developer means making mistakes and getting it wrong. Going, well, why is this not working? Oh, it's a typo. There's a full stop in the wrong place or a comma or something. But Patrick does it live, and I watch him code, and he streams in French, and I do understand quite a lot of French, but not quite enough. I've learned from watching him stream because there are many words I don't understand that he says. But he calls our streams his English lessons. Bless him. I think it's funny. Streaming is an excuse.
There is an opportunity.
Yeah, well, actually, Patrick has said streaming is an excuse to code more slowly. I think that's funny. Yeah, probably right. I think that's on. Okay. Well, we've got a few more minutes. Is there anything you guys really want to sort of mention about the Python projects? I know this is kind of off the cuff question, but if you had you have the opportunity. We haven't got a huge amount of people live on the stream, but this has got 8,800 people and plus who've registered, and so this video is going to be seen over and over again. Is there something you want to say about the Python projects and Python in general to your audience?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I don't know. Let's first talk about the FMX builder. The FMX builder is actually, as we were talking about, it is actually to build Android apps, right? So I believe, actually, I have never seen some tool that makes exactly the same thing, right? Because we have live debugging features, and we are now introducing the hot reload, something that's actually very cool, right? So for the FMX builder itself, there's a lot of things coming up, and the Python FMX and BCL as well. We have a lot of new wrappers that's still in the roadmap, but we're starting actually to produce this code now, right? So
Sure.
there's a lot of things, coming up.
Yeah.
There's something huge coming up in future.
Yeah. Well,
from this
actually,
stuff.
Patrick very carefully said in the chat the NDA moment, the non-disclosure agreement moment. I'm like, oh yeah, see, that's a good point. We always have to give a disclaimer because we're a public company where we say that anything that we say here is based on unreleased features and things like that. So we can make promises, but those are not necessarily promises because until something is released for general availability, it might not happen. So don't go and build your business based on us saying, hey, in the next version, you'll just plug it into the side of your head and it will create Python code for you. Which is obviously coming, but it's we can only say that there are things we intend to do and we want to do, and some things we intend to do and want to do and won't tell people because we want a bit of an advantage, but at the same time, this project is something that Embarcadero is very much behind and does support both financially and also with labor and skills and project management and posting and webinar appearances and things like that. And you guys, you put a lot of effort into it, and I really appreciate it. Sometimes we have a little bit of friction about what's going on because that's project management for you, and someone has to be bad guy. Quite often it's me, but I really do for both of you, and I mean this for both of you, that we really appreciate what you do. You put a lot of effort in, and I know as a developer, I know how that works. And it's tough sometimes to be there and having to answer yet another question on GitHub or something from someone saying, "Why doesn't this work?" And it's because they just haven't read the instructions. That's how it is. Okay, well, we're probably out of time. Final moment for you guys to say goodbye. So thanks to you guys, and we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
All right,
Bye.
and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure, in the next stream.